Welcome to today's live stream. So if you have any comments below, wait, I just jumped right into that. Whoops. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. So as some of you may have noticed, we are at a bit of a different time more than usual. So at the moment, we're going to start our live streams from 5:30 to 6:30. And the reasoning for that is not because of you guys or any changes apparently for us, but at the moment, where we work in our office space is currently owned or worked with Market Square, and we're currently having interesting conversations with the security at the moment and about them doing their job. And at the moment we can't stay past 6:30 of an evening. Maybe we'll see if that actually is the case tonight, but hopefully, unlike last time, we won't just be kicked out just because, you know, they're like, okay, you need to get out now. I'm like, I can't, I've got people live streaming. But do let me know how you guys think about the new time frame. Like I said, we're going to be doing 5:30 to 6:30. Most of you, I'm sure some of you are having tea, some of you are dinner. It's Australian. If some of you are having tea or dinner, you don't have to watch this. You don't have to consume this as it goes live. You just let me know any questions that you have after the live stream, and I can always comment and respond in text form as opposed to live stream form. But I want to see how you all are doing with an icebreaker question. So we're talking about mentoring this week, and I want to ask you guys, have you experienced mentoring? Do you have any mentors currently, or did you have any in the past? What was your experiencing with the mentor process and system? And have you had experience with paid mentors, or have you had experience with like partnership mentors? So I would love to know your feelings on mentorship. And I'd love to have your comments below. So feel free to comment those below throughout the entire stream. And even if this is the hashtag rewatch squad, feel free to post your comments there and I'll make sure I'll respond to them ASAP. Well, as soon as I get on social media, which is about 3 times a day. So I think we're doing all right. But what I want to ask you guys as well is if you know anyone who has experienced, thank you for your reaction, Kay. If you know anyone who has experience with mentoring or is maybe a mentor themselves, make sure that you share, invite, or tag them in below to get their questions and get their feedback. Because mentoring is one of those practices that a lot of business owners do or will encourage to do at some point in their lives or in their business careers. And it can be vastly different for many different people, and I'd love to know your opinions about it. Sorry, I'm hearing the wind outside, so it's getting a bit windy out there for you guys that are not in Geelong at the moment. So it's we're currently in summer. We're like 3 days into summer, and it's windy and gusty as all hell. So, well, that's kind of to be expected in Geelong. We have no idea of how actual weather, where real weather actually works. But at the moment, it's just sounding a bit intense for where I am. So I'm not sure if you guys can pick it up on the microphones, but yeah, they're here today. Oh, okay. But concentrating on what we're discussing today. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I need to mention to you guys. No, not really. If you guys are ready to pop in and talk about mentoring. So essentially what mentorship is, or there's like many multiple definitions, but for most of us, feel free to comment if you disagree or agree, is mentorship is the equal exchange of information or time with someone who is more experienced than you. So this could be a mentorship in the sense of that you partner with someone either industry or outside your industry who is usually a lot older than you or has more experience in the industry than you to get feedback, bounce ideas off, have that level playing field. And for some mentorship partnerships that I've been a part of, there's been no money exchanged, but in result of them teaching me about this particular aspect of my business, I give them, I buy them a meal, or in exchange, I teach them how to set up their YouTube channel, or, teach them how to do their videos or something in that respect. That's purely from my perspective of what I've done with mentorships in the past. But for you guys, you could exchange something that you know a lot about in your particular industry, or you can exchange something that you know quite well to exchange it over. And today we're going to discuss what is mentorship actually for you, and how it would work for you and your business. We're going to discuss how it actually functions, and we're going to discuss where you can actually find a mentor, and the different things and itty bits that go in between that. And of course, in at about the halfway point, we're going to have our break where we'll sit back and check out some of the events that we've got coming up at Video Confidence Coach. But like I said, if you have any comments, feel free to comment below. If you know anyone who's experienced mentorship or is actually a mentor themselves, I'd love to know. Make sure you comment below, invite them, tag them, hashtag, all the stuff. Feel free to bring people into the conversation. And even if you are on the hashtag Rewatch Squad, feel free to comment below and I'll make sure I answer you straight away. So, there was supposed to be clicks, but nothing happened. All right. So in regards to, is mentorship for you? So I've already given you guys like a brief, fairly rambly description of what actually mentorship is. But mentorship is that, like I said, it's that partnership between two people where you're exchanging information, or it could be a paid mentorship. So you are exchanging money for their insight and their wisdom, not in a coaching aspect. So coaching, usually you have a set formula of things to go through. You have goals and KPIs. You have clear mandates of things you're going to be reaching. And coaching is like a 24/7 type thing. While mentoring is you meet with them, say, once a fortnight, once a month. You're meeting them in a more casual environment, and with both paid and unpaid type mentorships, you're there because you want to help each other grow, as opposed to coaching where there is a clear exchange of you are giving me money for me to helping your business grow, that type of thing. And of course, the pricing of that would be different, as you can probably guess. But in regards to mentorship for you, have you ever felt a bit stuck in your business? Have you ever felt overwhelmed by everything and you just want someone to talk to, but not just your family members and not just your friends, or maybe even your employees in your business? You just don't want someone that you know to talk to. You want someone who actually can give you a decent response, someone who actually knows what they're talking about and can actually give you something in return that's not just, Personally, that's something that I experienced a lot in my business. And when I first started out 10 years ago, well, actually 11 by this point, we're in December. So about 11 years ago, I experienced that a lot when I first started my business, where video, in 2014, YouTube and online video was like obvious. It was, well, I wouldn't say obvious. It was very much a trend. It was very much a thing that was going around. It was already happening. But in regards to people actually paying for online video, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to work with. So I sought out mentorships. Unfortunately, none of them really panned out because I was dealing with marketers who would deal with television, or marketers who would deal with writing, or marketers who had that experience but with a completely different medium. And some of the information they gave me was helpful and it was insightful, but it didn't really work out because there were two completely different mediums. It's like teaching you how to make cheese when you wanted to make a meatloaf. So, like, yes, they can look sort of the same, and if you squint really hard, they can be sort of the same shape, but because they're two completely different, sides of the culinary table, as it were, it's quite hard for that information to permeate what I needed to do. So what I did was I sought out mentorship, or an unpaid internship actually, with a great girl called Dan at Atticus Media. Shout out to Atticus Media in Collingwood, Melbourne, where I went up there unpaid, I think for about 6 to 8 months, where I got all of this knowledge about how to run a videography company, but also, exchanged by helping her out with edits and actually doing some of the grunt work. And that was something that I was willing to have, that mentorship relationship, because I was willing to do that, willing to learn and willing to keep learning, and stuff that I use almost every day for my business. And that's the same thing that you guys can use, even though you're probably, you have kids, you have very limited time. And that's one thing that does surprise me with a lot of clients or potential clients that we have when they say, how is your schedule? How is your time budget, as we like to call it? A lot of people say, oh, it's very low, very low. I have very limited time. Well, we ask, what are you spending your time on? And for a lot of us, we can actually dictate what, and small business, it's the whole point of having freedom, we can dictate what takes our time, what takes our attention, and what takes our budget. And of course, having kids, there's going to be a lot of time devoted to them. But there is going to be time after they go to bed. There is going to be time before they wake up. There is going to be time when they're at school. And when you're a small business owner, you have that flexibility to pick and choose what you do. Of course, when you own, say, a short storefront, you have those selected few hours that you are open, but you're also closed at some point in the day. And if you run a 24-hour, salute you, best of luck to you. Probably not the best advice for you. But when it comes to making time for a mentorship partnership, you can make that time. It may be something that you might have to, squidge a few things around, and you might have to just make sure. But say, for example, I made it a habit that I would, catch up with my friends. So say, for example, every 2 weeks, I would send out texts to all my friends that I have in a list. And I would say, hey, what's a good time to catch up? And some of them would be like, cool, I'm ready, available next week. And some of them would come back to me saying, hey, I'm really full leg at work and the kids are driving me crazy. Can I get back to you? And I say, cool. And then I get back to them 2 weeks later and see how they're going. And if not, we have a conversation. But if it does work out, we end up seeing each other and hanging out. And yes, it may be a bit of a dictation and a bit of a clericship in regards to, g'day Geelong, that it's a bit hard when you just think about, okay, hold on, I'm making it a habit of, texting my friends. But the people that I allow into my circle of friends, I want to keep them. I want to meet them. And even though some of them are overseas, I always check in to see, all right, how's it going in London? How's it going wherever they are? And, we talk about the news, the weather, and all that stuff like that, because we catch up regularly with friends. But that's the same thing that you would need to do with your mentorship. You would need to make it a habit of, deciding between the two of you. And of course, someone who has more experience in your industry may not have as much time or much freedom as you. But then, of course, people who are at that level make time for things that they care about. And in regards to the exchange of power that was happening in a mentorship, yes, as the young person or the mentoree to the mentor, you are getting advice, you're getting information, you are learning tips of the trade about your industry, you're getting a sense of continuality, you're actually feeling like you're getting somewhere with your business. For the mentor down, yes, they have that experience, but they're also helping up-and-comers in the industry. They are supporting the local business scene. They're supporting people within their industry. They are actually, yes, it's more of a, say, volunteer or more of a gift-giving type of situation, but they're doing it for the love of helping other people. And of course, like I said, in my previous mentorships agreements, we've done it so then, we spent half of the hour going through some of my troubles and my issues, and then the other half an hour I would help them set up their Facebook or set up their YouTube or teach them how to use Canva, or for the next half an hour something that would actually help them in their business and their goals. And that's something that would happen a lot and would be utilized a lot in business. So does that feel like something that you can do, that you can have an hour, so maybe an hour worth of meeting, and then say give an hour on top of that for transport or getting around or wherever you need to be? I think 2 hours every 2 weeks or 2 hours every month seems quite reasonable to be able to obtain that information and that regularity. Does that feel like something that you can do? Something that you can manage? Something that you can put in your time budget? I think so. And if not, make the time. Because if you're not regularly investing in yourself and you're not regularly investing in your own knowledge to build up your knowledge in your industry and to become the expert that you are and keep being the expert that you are, people are going to leave your business. People are going to find other alternatives because they don't see you as the expert, because you're not practicing what you preach. You're not going in, reading the news, keeping yourself up to date and trying to better yourself always. You're not learning and you're not trying to keep improving yourself. You're just happy where you are. Well, if that's the case, then be a mentor. Be the other side of that equation. Mentor other young and upcoming people inside your industry and give back to them so then they can give that support, love even, to you. I'm going to say hi. Oh, this is not what I want. All right. I'm just saying hi. So that type of question that I'm asking for you guys, do you have someone in your life at the moment that could represent that for you? They don't necessarily have to be in the same industry as you, but it definitely does help. And of course, I'm coming a little bit from experience where when I needed mentorship or I needed guidance and I was talking to people that weren't in the same wheelhouse as me, and I got steered in a lot of different directions, and it just became a lot more stress for me than it needed to be. But for you guys, I'm sure that may be slightly a bit different. And we'll get on after the break on actually how you find a mentor and how you go about of finding someone to be that mentor for you. But I wanted to just quickly discuss, or not quickly, the next section for me, is we want to talk about that equal partnership. So as I've already discussed, there are two types of mentorship agreements. There is the quid pro quo, where you're providing information for them, they're providing information to you. It's an equal exchange of whatever either party deems fit. Then there is the paid model, where a mentorship that you pay the person who has the knowledge or the information you seek, and because you're paying for their time, it makes sense for them to fit you into their time budget. So making sure that is equal. Usually for the best types of mentorship agreements, I highly recommend the, how do I put this? Both of them actually work. Both types of partnership actually works. It's just making sure that that you find the right person and that you can keep a consistent turnaround time. Turnaround time is not the right type of word, Zoe, but making sure that you have a strict time that you guys meet. So say, for example, the last Thursday of every month, booked into the calendar for the next, 6 to 8 months, like no bigs. And if something terrible happens, then we move it to the next Thursday of the next week. Like, you come up with these contingencies that you make sure that you have at that place, that you're meeting at that time, at that place every day. And like I said, it could easily be, hey, take you out to dinner once a month. I pay for your dinner and your drinks, and we discuss things about the industry. Or again, like I said, having that other person who knows the same level of stuff or even higher that you can learn from. Because there's a reason why apprentices or trainees have, they go into the workforce, they need someone to monitor them, to keep an eye on them, because they're trying and doing new things, which then will benefit their career. And that's the same thing that you would do in business. And like all good relationships, there is a give and take aspect, making sure that you're giving as well as taking when it comes to information, when it comes to, talking about, maybe your personal lives and your emotion, and seeing what level you guys are at in your relationship, And also providing that recompense. So providing in regards to, it could be that exchange of money for the paid ones, or it could be that exchange of value for the unpaid ones. And if that balance becomes uneven in whatever way, you'll find that the meetings don't go as well, or the chances that you have to catch up don't go well, or you find that it's the mentor is avoiding you, not because they don't like you, but because it's getting to the point where the unspoken rule of there's no value exchange, so they're just coming to get talked at by you and they give you advice, and they feel like there's no real exchange of power or exchange of value in that situation for them to really warrant, meeting you once a month, once a fortnight, whatever you guys agree on. So does that seem reasonable for you? And one thing that I always like to remind people, especially the audience that I cultivate, is that we're adults. We are adults in adult bodies making adult decisions. And if the relationships go sour for whatever reason, maybe for whatever reason it doesn't go well, then cut it off. For different mentoring agreements, there are agreements out there. They're like templates online that you can go and download. I usually recommend, personally, because I've been burnt a few times, not in the mentor space specifically, but when you're going to anything to do with business, I usually personally recommend having a contract or just having everything in writing that both parties agree on, which is essentially a contract that stipulates, okay, this is what I expect from you and this is what you expect from me. And the reason that we have that in writing, of course, you would go back every 6 months to agree or disagree, and make sure that the contract actually makes sense. But the reason I always recommend, when you're going into any sort of relationship, businessly or professionally, with another person or another entity or another business, is to have that contract in place. Not because both of you, yes, Michelle, we are still live. Hopefully, if it hasn't stuffed up. Nope, it looks like it's still going. And I forgot to change my titles. Whoops. I should actually get back into character then. Sorry, not character. Back into the way of things. The reason that you have contracts is to make sure that both parties don't get screwed over. And especially when you're in a mentorship, when talking to people within your industry, there's the inherent idea of what an NDA is, and making so an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. So making sure that the information you guys discuss at your catch-ups, your meetings, your dinners, whatever it is, that information doesn't get then utilized in those other businesses to detriment the other party. Or, that maybe they talk about a specific person within their, industry that has either been a difficult person or maybe something like that. And then, you hear about later that this person is very angry at you because you talked about like that behind my back. Again, we're adults. We're not teenagers. We're not angry little children. And with non-disclosure agreements, I usually recommend that you make sure that both parties read and both parties listen. Currently, we're using thank you, Michelle. I'm so glad that you find me profound and insightful. Usually, we recommend platforms where it's e-signed, or all that stuff can be online and made it very clear, and then you can download it later. So say, for example, the current system that we're using is called PandaDoc. It's green. PandaDoc, one word. And we use it currently we've used it with a couple of contracts. I use it with my discovery forms, and we use it for anything that needs to be signed, and it needs to be aware that, hey, we've just had this discussion, dooba-dooba-dooba-doo. And they've got a fair few templates that are useful and utilize for whatever business stuff you use. This is not a promo. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just letting you know that that's what we're currently using. And that may change in the future, but right now everything is working and it is doing things. Michelle says, some people are childish and these NDAs assist resolution of certain issues. And Michelle can definitely say that because she got the diploma. Now, I know you have little, not insurance things, but licenses that you have to deal with. But I wanted to, yes, and templates are very useful. I just wanted to thank Michelle for a little bit of her mentorship and guidance when it's come time to, again, nothing that's binding, nothing that impedes her legally, but she's given me a little bit of help when it comes to some regular consulting and figuring out where things are going and making sure that I'm actually using the right piece of wording for that particular thing. Because turns out legalese is not English. If you guys have ever tried to figure that out, legalese is not English, and legalese is not Spanish or French or anything, and it just does not make sense. So I need someone who has a lot more experience with the words that are extended versions of just saying no. Like, it's no, and then there's 5,000 other letters after it that just make no sense, that blow my mind. But back to what I was saying in regards to partnerships. When you're going into a mentorship agreement, you need to make sure that you understand all the words that are being said. And if not, you've got Google. And if not, go to a lawyer. And if not, because, of course, yes, terms are very different, as Michelle says, terms are very different in the legal language. And if you don't know what something says, Google it. And if it's still not clear, then talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. Because I've been bitten before in regards to contracts, things going south or things going wrong, not to the sake that I've lost, say, money, but say that I've lost IP or so intellectual property, something that, say, for example, that I had the idea for, that I worked really hard on, and then they can go off and use it for whatever because we created it or we theorized it. I theorized it in the room where they were. That's essentially what I did. So I'm not going to go too much into that per se for legal reasons. But that's why it's usually recommended when it comes to mentoring that it's quite clear on both sides what the other side is getting from the equation. But it's also quite clear that, okay, what is in the room stays in the room. except for, general guidance about, what to do with my business. Should I pivot? What has been your experience in A, B, C, or D? And of course, keeping in mind that the other person that is in that mentor relationship, either the mentee or the mentor, is also human. So not everything that they say is gospel, and not everything that they do or say is the act of God. So that's one thing that I've had to remind a few people that have come to me for advice after, a mentorship type thing, because there was always that impression that, that you're there, that you're adults, that you're exchanging this information, and you just have to remember that you're there for the better good of both parties, not for the better hood of one. For the better hood of one party, that's a coaching thing. That's a paid thing, you go with that. But with mentorship, you need to make sure that there is an equal exchange of information, be it money for information or be it information for information. And making sure that both parties are aware of that. And say, for example, if you get to that end of that agreement, so you get to, say, the 3-month mark, and you've met each other 6 times by that point, and you find, this isn't working out, then say it. Both of you, say it. You can say it via email, and as Michelle says in the comments, yes, email trails are more of a contract than a discussion, and that's something that I always make sure of, that yes, I'm doing like live streams for you guys, but if I put something in writing, it's more, the courts like it more, but it's also I'm putting something in writing of my own hand. And of course, I'm sure in the future, this type of testimony would make more sense. But right now, everything that's put into emails is trail of information as it goes along. But again, I got myself distracted. But when you're talking about partnerships, like I said, if you get to that 3-month mark and you find that one of the parties is not happy, discuss it. Be adults. Talk to each other as to, okay, you're not happy with the arrangement. What's going on? Are you not, liking the information, the value I'm providing? Or do you feel that you're not getting the best out of this bargain, and this arrangement, I should say? What is going on? And you ask each other point blank. And hopefully, if you've got the right type of mentor, you'd be able to get that information point blank and straight away. If it's something that you might have to tease out, it might be something that you just both agree, okay, let's just drop this information. We both got almost what we've got out of it. We can be, good buddies, good chums, but our mentoring days are over. And that should be fine. Again, we're adults. We can all make decisions like that. And as Michelle says, the court will recognize an email trail because emails are in words, and an email trail shows times, dates, stamps, all that good stuff. And thank you, Michelle. I really hope you enjoy all this stuff about mentorship. And the thing that I will touch on just before we head to a break is need to breathe and have some water. Breathe. Making sure that when you go into agreement with a mentor, that both of you understand why you are doing it. So, and also understanding the motivations for the other party as well. So as I said, the mentor could be a case of, I want to give back to my community. I want to give back to my younger people who are just joining the industry. And for you as the mentoree, you might want to, get better at A, B, C, or D. Or you just want to get more insight into the industry that you've already been a part of, and you want to build your career in, you want to spend the rest of your life in this industry, but you have no idea who to turn to. And if you can voice that within the first, meeting or so, or even before you actually officially meet them, it's always a good idea to sit down and talk those out before you get going, before you commit to those 3 months, before you commit to those 6 months, before you commit to any sort of length of time. And it can always be a trial phase. You can always say, okay, for the next month, we're going to meet every fortnight. So we're going to meet twice. And after that, we'll have a trial run and see, okay, how did we do? Did we not like it? Did we like it? And say, for example, there's plenty of people out there who are great, people who are, jovial people who are great people in business, know what they're doing or know what they're talking about, but they make terrible mentors because maybe they've got other stuff in their mind. Maybe they've running a million miles an hour and they just can't stop for nobody. that does happen. And it's nothing against the person to say, okay, you're a terrible person because you can't mentor me. No, it's saying that, okay, maybe you're not the right person to mentor me specifically. In that case, I'll go and find someone else. Or in that case, do you recommend anyone else? Because not everyone has that same knack or that same knowledge or that same base to start off with when it comes to teaching other people how to do their craft. And as Michelle says, and an exchange of bases for contracts, etc. Exactly. When it comes to legalese, just leave it to the professionals. That's one of the things that we always recommend paying, especially in business. When you're first starting out, of course, you don't have a whole lot of money. But once you've got some money coming in, we always recommend getting contractors' contracts looked at by a professional to be able to give their opinion to you, to be able to make sure that you're doing everything legally right. Okay. And also, as Michelle says, your needs may change, and make sure that it's reflected in that. And both of you understand, of course. Now, we'll pause for a moment and take a little bit of a break. Well, I'm going to quickly bring up the thing that I said I would. Beautiful, on screen. And yes, you can see my lovely job at the moment with my backdrop almost falling off. Whoops. But at the moment, we are getting ready for a lot of workshops that we have coming up. So the next pressing one that we have is a December 10th Lights, Camera, Edit workshop. We held the workshop at NAB last month. I have no idea in my mind when that actually was. I'm sure Michelle can comment and actually tell me. But this workshop was really well received. Everyone really enjoyed it and they wanted to get more out of it. And there was a lot of people that unfortunately couldn't make it to that particular session. So we're running another one on behalf of the guys that actually requested it. So we're going to be running that not this Tuesday, but not today, obviously, because it's like 6 p.m. But we're going to be running it next Tuesday at the NAB Village. So this is the NAB Village Geelong. So there's a couple of people that accidentally, even though it's in the description of the event, went to the NAB Village Docklands. And we are currently in talks with them about holding some events there. And when we do so, we'll make sure that we make that nice and clear. Docklands, NAB Village. But in there, so we're running these events and we're going to be running a lot more events with them in the new year throughout January, February, March. But at the moment we don't have those events just up yet because we want to get through this event first and then we'll start promoting all the other ones that we have coming up. And then the event after that we have scheduled is January 15th. We've got the Video Made Easy, back by popular demand. This might be one of the last ones that we're running just because we're slowly moving this from the workshops phase to the online course phase. And for people that may not be in the know, we are looking to run online courses, and Video Made Easy is our most popular basic workshop that, in 2 hours you get everything you need to get going to actually get onto video. And with the knowledge that we've taken, the amount of times that we've run this workshop, we're pretty certain that putting this into an online course is going to be a lot more beneficial than trying to run it every day because, as some of you may have guessed, running workshops can actually be quite tiring and you just have to keep going. So with online courses, we can create it, set it up, create it, and let you guys have access to it without having us to always constantly come back and back and back to provide the same thing that you guys would find useful. So that's something that a lot of people have asked for. So that might be the last workshop that we actually do before we move it onto an online course format. And then the next event after that, so January 18th, so that's the Saturday. So the Video Made Easy is on a Wednesday and the Podcasters Meetup is on the Saturday. We created a Facebook group called Geelong Podcasters. So for those who maybe don't know, Video Confidence Coach is the name, but we run a lot of podcasts. We run a lot of workshops about podcasting because we run our own podcast, the Do Video Podcast, and we've worked with a lot of clients who have podcasting in their repertoire of things that they use, and we also help them create audio content for that podcast. So, and we'll also be having a Geelong Podcasters podcast as soon as I make that trailer and get doing. So like using my own notes and using the stuff that I've taught you in workshops, I'm going to be using myself for this particular workshop. And say, for example, at some point, maybe later this month, I might be running a live stream we spend time actually sitting down and organizing your content for the new year. So that's something that if you guys like the sound of, feel free to comment below and I'll make sure I'll make that into an action. I might push that to the 17th and I'll sit back with you guys and have a conversation. And as we sit back and come up with ideas on creating ideas for your content. So that is going to be at Creative Geelong, which was where we are now. And we're going to be meeting up. It's just a free meetup. You don't have to pay anything. You meet up with other podcasters. And at that event, we'll have a nice, relaxed, time. We'll sit back. You'll get to speak with other people who are maybe a little bit more experienced than you. Here's that mentoring stuff coming in. And you'll get to speak with them about podcasting and how they got started. And it's because it's a casual type lunch thing, we're not expecting too much. And what else can I think of for this particular event? No, it's supposed to be a nice, relaxed event. So if you're interested in podcasting, and even if you don't have a podcast just yet, feel free to come to the Geelong Podcasters event and just meet up with other people and see how you go. You maybe will, I think we might be opening that studio as well, the Creative Geelong audio studio. You can go in and check and see how that looks, and you can, book in to have that for yourself in the future. And the last thing I want to let you guys know about is the Start My Podcast workshop, just as I mentioned before. So this is the workshop that we don't run we host the workshop, but it's run under the Creative Geelong banner. So Creative Geelong is the one that gets all the money, that gets all the profits, because it's a non-for-profit organisation. And we like to run these workshops to make sure that people who want to get started on a podcast are able to sit down and actually get started and not have to stress too much about, okay, what do I need? How do I get started? Okay, oh my God. So we've run this workshop a couple of times already, and we've had a lot of success of people getting started and using the studio to create their podcasts, but then being able to be creative with it is the best thing that I like to see from these workshops, is people understand or see the podcast or see the workshops and be like, okay, podcasting is a little bit more of an easy endeavor for them after they get past that hurdle of, okay, what am I doing? Where am I going? Blah, 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 blah. They get past that hurdle. Bloop. And then once they're past that hurdle, they can see the creative and the ideas blossoming, and they can see where it goes from that. And because, as we've always said, podcasting is simply a microphone, a computer, and Wi-Fi. That is all you need. And most of the time, your phone or multiple devices that you probably have around you right now do have a microphone in them. We usually recommend buying an external one, but just to get you started, you do have the option to create a podcast right away, straight away even. But to make sure that is makes sense for you, and also has the longevity that you want from your podcast, we highly recommend making sure that you have the foundation set, so you can come to our Start My Podcast workshop, so you have those foundations set, ready to go, and then when it's time, or when maybe after the Christmas break, or whenever you feel like, hey, I want to get started, I want to start doing my podcast. So say, for example, there's a lot of people that we've worked with, or a lot of clients say that I work with, who manage to record, they sit down and batch. So instead of recording, a 5-minute podcast every day, podcast that goes off, once a week, it's a 5-minute podcast, set up everything, do it in the net. They batch it. They record, 6-8 podcasts in one go, and then release it once a week, release it slowly without the once a week, and then make sure they have a bank of generalized topics or generalized themes for their podcast, and then they go back to it. So say, for example, that's what we're doing now with Video Confidence Coach. We've taken a little bit of a break from our schedule of uploading videos and uploading podcasts, just because personally I've been a bit stressed, and at the moment in the business I only have me to rely on. We are looking to expand into VAs, but we need to worry about that when we worry about that. And for this particular business, we want to make sure that we have all these videos recorded, we have everything sorted, so then we can release once a week and make sure that we give you guys that content and that information and that value that you need, without us getting stressed on one end, just to make sure that, oh no, the deadline is coming, oh my God. And that's why we batched a whole bunch of content back earlier this year. And then I got sick again, and it just didn't happen. And now that I'm somewhat on the mend and somewhat less sick, I'm going to be able to actually sit down and do that. And personally, I find Christmas the best time for me to actually work on my business. Yes, we do have family commitments. Me and my family, we always have family commitments. But personally, as I've gotten older, I'm not sure about yourselves, feel free to comment below, but as I've become an adult, there's less stress or less, of course there's stress, it's Christmas, goddammit, but there's less, personally for me, that stress of I must take this time off. Well then, as a business owner, I can choose when I take my time off. And Christmas is the best time, less people annoy you. As soon as it hits December, like 2 days ago, as soon as it hits December, everyone's just like, cool, fun, all right, boom. Like, I'll see you in 2020. I'll see you next year. It's like, we've still got an extra month. And most of the Christmas parties that I'm aware of have already happened and gone. Like, they happened in late November. So most people are just like, okay, as soon as it hits December, all right, see you in 2020. Which personally is fine. Not exactly on my wallet, but we can work around that. And that's what I enjoy as well, just to spend that time being like, all right, see you next year, see you next year, see you next year. Okay, everyone shuts down, everyone closes down. I can continue doing what I like in my business, as well as other things that I maybe don't like about the business. But I'm able to use that time effectively, as opposed to just answering emails and doing everything. Speaking of which, emails, not my thing. So I attempted to start that email marketing weekly thing, thinking I'm going to make this a habit, like I mentioned in the mentoring stuff just before. I'm going to make it a habit. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to do it every single week. That didn't happen. So in the new year, I'll work that out too. Somehow. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But in that meantime, I will figure it out. So are you guys ready to move on to the last section? I think we are. G'day, attention media. How are you? And during that bit where I couldn't see the screen, Michelle has left a few comments. So yes, it went well recently. I changed my desktop tower. Yes, Michelle has been having some fun with those lovely internet fun times. And then both, actually, Michelle. So my podcasts are both video and audio. A lot of people and some listeners to audio podcasts actually prefer people who create podcasts specifically for audio. But personally, I am the video confidence coach. So I create a video first, pull out the audio, put that into a podcast. And because a lot of the videos that I am doing that for, except for say tutorials where you kind of need to see what you're looking at to actually follow the tutorial, I run the podcasts very much like this. I'm on screen, you can see my mannerisms, but even though you can only hear me, the audio podcasts still work out fine. And that's what I prefer to do. So I have content on multiple different platforms, but then know the platforms that actually work and people listen to. Michelle says cool. And as Michelle does too, she also works over Christmas because it's that nice kind of feeling that everything's kind of quieting down. Of course, we're a little bit in the bit right now in regards to it's getting a bit tense, and a lot of people are like, I need to get this done. But personally, for myself and for a lot of other people, as soon as it hits December, everyone's just going, okay, done. All right, bye. And that's the type of feeling that I'm getting, especially in the Geelong business community. I'm not sure about where you are in the world, but in the Geelong business community, there's definitely that feeling. I imagine it would be different in the Northern Hemisphere, possibly because you guys have that week off or 2 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, but then you're back into school. For us, the December, January period is the actual school holidays for everyone in primary school and high school. Uni, you like get off in October and you don't go back till March. Ugh. This is coming from someone who didn't go to uni, so I don't quite understand how much time they have off to do whatever they want. God damn it. And yes, video email. Yes, we do. We like to do emails a little differently, so we like to give you guys a video to actually say hello and let you know what the news is going on in regards to social media, online space, video online, podcasts online, all the good stuff. And thank you, Michelle. I'm so glad that you call me very clever. I feel blessed. And remember, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment below and make sure you tag anyone who you know who is either mentor, mentoree, or someone who wants to get into that type of relationship. Make sure that you invite them, tag, share, make sure you let them know what's happening with this live stream so I can answer their questions when they pop up. And as Michelle says, I have a big workload on Christmas Day, then I go back to the beach. First work, then work, and then work on business. I like that. That's a good idea. Personally, I'm not going anywhere near a beach. That stuff's going to burn my skin, but also burn my eyes. I've never really been one for the beach. But you enjoy your beach, Michelle, and I'll stay in the shade and eat pavlova, because pavlova is really only available properly during the Christmas period. That's just my personal opinion. So now I want to move on in regards to mentorship. I want you guys to... I want to talk about how you actually find a mentor. Now, that can be much easier said than done, because mentorships, as you can probably guess, for a lot of people that are money driven, or a lot of people that don't see helping other people out as a, community thing, like they're very much money driven, it can be quite a daunting task for people to be like, I have to give away my time for the betterment of others for free. Again, there are different types of mentorships, but that's the type of thing that I've had a lot of clients or a lot of people that have kind of brought up the idea of mentorship, and they're like, you, get it off me. But when it comes to, for you, the mentoree probably, and if you're a mentor, feel free to wait until after this section. How do you go about finding these types of people to have a mentorship with? Well, the first one is coaches. So like business coaches, industry-specific coaches. Usually coaches or online coaches will have a mentorship offering where its price is slightly reduced. I wouldn't say slightly. It is fairly reduced to their coaching package, because again, the mentorship is the time that it takes for the mentorship meeting to happen. They answer your questions, they give their advice, but then there's a bit of light follow-up, but in regards to coaching, it's not a strict platform. As I mentioned before, with coaching, there is KPIs, there is constant follow-ups, there is clear indications when it comes to coaching, and you're following a formula that's already set out. When with mentorship, it's you're there for the meeting, or there for the time that you're there together, and then follow light catch-ups throughout however long, but it's a little bit more, I don't want to say relaxed, but a little bit more straightforward compared. But yes, those coaches usually do offer a mentoring service, and depending on the industry professional you're wishing to speak to, I highly recommend making sure that you check them out, check out their content, see what type of stuff they're on about. Making sure that their values line up with yours is always a big one with any coach or mentor for that example, but it's always a good idea just to line them up either way. And also with coaches, some are just too busy focusing on coaching clients to have mentoring on the side, but it's entirely, you better ask to find out. And that's the one thing that I always like to remind people is, what's the harm in asking? If they don't respond, it's not a no, you just didn't get the answer. That's happened to me a few times where people have contacted me and then I meet them in real life and they're like, oh, I sent you an email. And I'm like, probably didn't read it because it's an email. Me don't read emails. Is a bit intense. Ooh, that's a bit interesting. So Carla just sent a message saying, I can't find the class about podcasts. So what I'm quickly going to do, because this is a live stream and we're professionals here, I'm just going to quickly send her that while we're on the live stream. And another place to find mentors is to someone that you look up to, or someone that is either in your local business industry or someone who's maybe in the wider industry but maybe is located near you. With mentorships, I usually recommend a face-to-face mentorship just because it can be of that relaxed nature. But if there's someone that you really admire that does a really good job with what they do, and you really admire them, then ask, do they have mentorship? Do they have coaching? They may not be specifically a coach, but you can always ask them about mentorship. And for a lot of people, of course, they may not have the time. Like I said, they may not have that on their radar as things to do, so they probably haven't made time for that to occur. Then in that case, see what people they would recommend. And see what people they would recommend from there. Because most people who are at that level, or people that you already admire, or people that you know about, usually are at a level where they don't have a whole lot of free time on their hands, or they're working on specific projects, and they haven't been able to, like I mentioned at the start of this live stream, about squidging that time around to make time for you, because at the moment they are focusing on themselves. They're focusing on their career, on their business, or themselves or their family. And I'm not saying that celebrities or people at that level are not going to make time for you. I'm just saying, in regards to that value exchange, for them to see that as a value exchange that's worth them taking their time, you're going to have to offer something really good. Can you do that? And Michelle has asked, how do you decide when to ask someone? Well, a good way to figure that out is to figure out when is the right time for you. Do you feel like you're ready to accept what information they give you? It could be wrong, it could be right, but are you ready to accept that information first? And then usually a good time to ask is making sure that you've got their contacts down, like the terms of contact. So usually best to reach out by email first, and then see how you go, and then follow up via call and because they could have VAs or assistants or a team behind them, and you might be able to inquire with them. And if it doesn't work out first try, don't worry. Come back in 6 months and see how they feel then. And if they clearly are showing, hopefully they don't show disdain, but if anyone is giving you a hard time for just asking a question, they're probably not the right people for you. But that could be a case of people coming up to them. They may have multiple, ask, oh, can you be my mentor, from multiple people, and they're probably just not ready, or they don't have the time. Then that's okay. But usually the best time to decide when to ask someone is to make sure you're ready to give that value first. Do you have that time available to commit to that once a month? Do you have that time first? And then when you're ready, you're able to organize or find someone from there. So as we said, about finding someone that you already look up to. So we've already talked about coaches, people who do it as a profession, who can mentor at a slightly discount rate. And then I've talked about people that you already look up to, admire in your industry space or local scene, and then ask through there. Another one I always recommend is checking out institutions or associations if they actually offer any programs. So a lot of institutions and associations, especially in Australia, but I'm sure around the world, do have mentorship programs that are a case, usually they're unpaid, so they exchange value, but some of them are paid, association mentorships with mentors. But that could always be the case of, you want someone in your industry, you've joined an association that's specifically for people in your particular industry. Well, then you've already found other people in that. And say, for example, if they don't offer any mentorship programs, then maybe start one. And if that's not something that you can do, well, then look up for other people in your association or in your institute, and look at and see these people that you admire, and then go to the thing that we just discussed about talking to people that you admire, about asking them to be your mentor. Again, there's a lot of people that don't come up to me personally, but come up to a lot of people that I know, maybe even clients of mine, that they say, oh, can you be my mentor? But then don't follow it up by offering anything else. They say, oh, can you be my mentor? And then that's kind of it. Or they say, can you be my mentor? I can teach you how to use Instagram stories, something like that. Because there's a lot of people that, want mentorship, that want that information, that want that value, but they're not willing to give something in return. And that's going to turn a lot of people that maybe have a very limited time to devote to mentorship, or a very limited time for even themselves, that's going to turn them right off. They're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this because you clearly aren't going to give me anything valuable for my time. But if they say, for example, were, asking around or asking questions about, oh, I've heard about this Instagram stories thing and I really want to give it a shot, but I have no idea how to get started. Then you come up and say, hey, you sidle up to them and be all nice and chatty and say, hey, I can teach you about Instagram stories. I'm looking for a mentor. Can you recommend anyone? You're not instantly asking them specifically about what they're actually doing, but you're actually nicely nicely put, shall I say, asking them about, okay, do you know anyone? And if you're already asking their question for them, you're already answering that question for them, should I say, that you're saying, yeah, I can help you with Instagram stories. I'm quite good at it, actually. Do you know anyone who would be helpful in mentorship? And that type of value exchange that they will be happy to give because they want to achieve something. They have a goal for themselves and you have a goal for yourself, and you're able to value exchange that to be able to meet them once a month. And if, say, for example, the people that don't have the time to meet once a month are either not in a good headspace for you to learn from, or they're just not in a good headspace to begin with, because people can always make time. If something comes up, you can always make time. That's just a fact of life with humans. You can always make time. It's if you choose to make that time. And for some people, we just don't have that ability right now. We don't have that time and flexibility. Then that's okay. We'll just be done. And one thing that I want to also talk to is referrals. So people that have had mentors or, business associates, business friends that you've come across with, if they have anyone that they can refer to you. Again, they may not specifically be someone in your industry, but it's always good to ask around, always good to check. And then you ask people for referrals that, hey, my mentor is such and such, come, that type of thing. Is that something that will be helpful for you? And always look up referrals and actually and always make sure to follow them up. So even though this person may not be in your industry and, they may be, a great person, well, then specifically ask them. I said, I'm looking for a mentor. My friend such and such recommended you, but I'm not sure if you can help me with topics A, B, C, or D. They might surprise you and actually come back to you and say, oh, no, I actually was, in the wine business for 5 years or what have you. They can actually give you some advice over long term. And if not, they can always say, maybe I'm not the right person for you, but I know someone who is covering all those things and more. Here's their number, here's their details. It's always nice to ask. So we're going to finish up for this live stream this week. Make sure you comment below if you're on the hashtag Rewatch Squad, and it doesn't matter if you are, it's okay. I'm always going to answer. And I want to thank you to everyone who's commented below, all your questions, all your ideas, or any questions you have about mentoring. And on my little sign off that I have down the bottom is that we do provide mentoring packages. But unfortunately right now, when I wrote this about 2 months ago, I thought I would have created those packages, but I haven't. We will be providing mentoring packages, but that will be released in the new year once we have them available. But right now we don't. So for this live stream, this will always be recorded, but in the subsequent videos, we'll probably let you guys know about mentoring and what we'll have available. So if you are interested in starting mentoring for you and your business and you want that value exchange, hit me up. All right, we'll leave you to it, okay, guys? And I'm going to finish. Bye, guys.